The Carolina Panthers turned 30 this year. Youthful by NFL franchise standards and still a bit too young for a full-on midlife crisis, yet that's exactly where this team appears headed. The crazy thing about Carolina is that they found success early on. In their first season in 1995, they won a respectable 7 games, and followed that up with a 12-4 season and a trip to the conference championship game, where Brett Favre and the Packers blew out the precocious Panthers. Late great Carolina linebacker Sam Mills always implored the team and its fans to keep pounding, and even with a few bumps in the road, the franchise has put together a decent resume for itself, including 2 Super Bowl appearances, one of the most electric quarterbacks of all time in Cam Newton, and arguably the best linebacker of all time in Luke Kuechly. And that brings us to the present. In a league with such great parity, it's not uncommon for the best NFL franchises to have their down years, but this feels different for Carolina. Let's take a look at how the Panthers got here and what chances they have of moving forward. The tumult began in late 2017 when Jerry Richardson, who had been the owner since the team's inception, was found to have paid large settlements to employees who felt that Richardson had used harassing and even racist language in the office. Richardson subsequently put the team up for sale, and Steelers minority owner David Tepper would buy the team for a then NFL record of $2.2 billion. The sale of the team to Tepper would turn out to be unfortunate for Carolina, who were looking for some stability, as it also looked like Cam Newton's shoulder was starting to become a real problem. Tepper's first big decision came in 2019 when he fired Ron Rivera after a 5-7 start to the season. Yes, there were quarterback issues, but the Panthers would lose their last 4 games of the season under interim coach Perry Fewell. Tepper then decided to bring in Matt Rule from the college ranks. Rule had done an admirable job turning around a rock-bottom Baylor program, but he still finished his 3 years there with a 19-20 record and had no NFL coaching experience. Carolina also brought in Teddy Bridgewater in an attempt to stabilize the quarterback situation, but the Panthers stumbled to a 5-11 record, finishing 20th in points per game on offense and 31st in points per game on defense. In year 2 under Rule's rule, it was more of the same. The quarterback combo of Sam Darnold, Cam Newton, and P.J. Walker led Carolina to a 5-12 record in 2021, finishing 29th in PPG on offense and 21st in PPG on defense. The Panthers then went out and got another seemingly above-average quarterback in Baker Mayfield for the 2022 season. He struggled through an ankle injury and was eventually replaced by Walker. Rule was fired after a 1-4 start, and 6 games into the season, with their playoff hopes already dim at 1-5, Tepper and the Panthers did the unthinkable. On October 20th, they traded their only bona fide star in Christian McCaffrey, shipping him to the 49ers for a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th round pick. In 2023, McCaffrey was the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year, while the Panthers used those picks to acquire 4 players even Adam Schefter couldn't identify, but we'll get into the draft later. Mayfield was released after just 11 games with the Panthers, who turned back to Sam Darnold. He somewhat competently led them to a 4-2 record to end the season. With the franchise now floundering, Tepper needed to do something. The 2023 draft had 2 solid quarterback prospects at the top of the board in Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, but the Panthers' first-round selection was 9th. The front office saw an opportunity to trade up and took their shot. The Panthers would eventually send their number 9 overall pick, a 2nd-round pick, their 2024 first-round pick, a 2025 2nd-round pick, and their best wide receiver DJ Moore for the rights to the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Tepper had allegedly made it clear to the front office that he wanted to select Young instead of Stroud, and so Carolina took Young with the number 1 overall pick in 2023. Paired with new head coach Frank Reich, Tepper believed he had something. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. The obsession with finding the perfect quarterback had left holes all over the field. Injuries and a lack of legitimate starters on the offensive line didn't help Young, who was sacked an absurd 62 times in the year. The Panthers started 0-6, and Young was, by most metrics, the worst starting quarterback in the league. The defense was incredibly poor as well, and both sides of the ball finished last in the NFL in points per game. Young finished the season with a 2-14 record and had 11 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. And by the way, Frank Reich didn't make it to Game 12. He was fired after starting the season 1-10. So to recap, Tepper and Carolina have been involved in arguably 2 of the worst trades in NFL history over the course of back-to-back seasons, and it doesn't appear that there's much help on the way outside of a few solid players acquired in the draft like Chuba Hubbard and Ike Ekwonu. Tepper hasn't exactly endeared himself to the fans and the Carolina community either. Following a shutout loss to Jacksonville in Week 17 of 2023, the billionaire owner tossed a drink onto a fan from his owner's suite. He was fined $300,000 for the meltdown, and this loss assured the Chicago Bears, who had the rights to Carolina's 2024 first-round pick, the #1 spot in the upcoming draft. Just prior to that 2024 draft, a local Charlotte bar had placed a sign out front that said, "Please let the coach and GM pick this year." Tepper apparently noticed the sign as he was driving by and was later seen entering the bar on security cam footage to speak with the employees. The conversation was allegedly cordial, but bizarre nonetheless. This season has gone almost exactly as you might have expected. New head coach Dave Canales hasn't made much of a difference, and after a horrific 0-2 start to the season, the Panthers decided to bench Bryce Young in favor of another one of those veteran quarterbacks Tepper seems to love so much in Andy Dalton. However, Dalton was lost to a season-ending injury against the Bears, and thus the Panthers are back to Young in what has to be one of the wildest quarterback carousels in recent memory. Even with back-to-back wins against the Saints and Giants, Carolina seems to still be sinking, and at best is treading water until they can find the next big thing at under center. Unfortunately, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield are thriving in their new homes, which is a sign that there was at least some level of incompetence with the Panthers organization. It's clear that Carolina has one of the worst rosters in football, and barring another massive trade, which they don't really have the assets for outside of J.C. Horn, or hitting on a quarterback in the upcoming draft, this team may not recover for some time. It's not often that a feeling of hopelessness surrounds a franchise, and when it does, as we've seen recently with the Jets and Raiders, it's usually the ownership that's to blame. I would tell the Panthers to keep pounding, but even their most ardent fans are surely tired of even banging that drum. What do you think about the direction the Panthers are headed? For more videos like this, please like and subscribe.